and welcome to the Art of Being Human. We've now completed that section I was doing in terms of helping children go through their crises, and we spent a number of weeks, actually maybe a number of months on it. So now what I want to do is start like a new segment, and this will be how to develop human relationships. Why would I want to do that right now? Well, we've taken the human being from various stages of development and going through the crises that occur with various stages of development. But when you come right down to it, the person's quality of life is somewhat dependent on the way that they have relationships with other people. And a lot of the personality disorders, the relationships between other people is not good. And so therefore they have the symptoms of whatever personality disorder they have. But the quality of your life can depend upon your relationships with other people because you're dealing with people all the time. You know, we really are social creatures. And so we are dependent on other people to help fulfill our needs. We help fulfill the needs of other people, and it's very important that we have good relationships with others. And our lives are much happier if we can say that we have good relationships with other people and mean it. So I want to kind of dig into that. But before I do, I want to mention something about personality, because personality is so much a part of what we do and so much a part of who we are, and also has a part to play in the relationships that we have with others. Now, if you mention, I'm basically just going to define it and go into it a little bit. I'm not doing a whole segment just on personality or personality disorders. But if I were to ask you what personality is, you probably would have difficulty in answering. People would say, well, you know, I know somebody who's got a good personality and they're cheerful all the time, or I know somebody that doesn't have a good personality. This person has a good personality, this person doesn't. That's not actually what it is at all. What personality is, by definition, is the total sum of who you are, because it all plays a part. And when I say the total sum of who you are, I mean everything about you. Your physical nature, whether you're tall or you're short, what your race is, whether you have blue eyes or brown eyes, you know, how physically adept you are. The physical nature is very important because we're living in a physical body. But it also includes such things as your thoughts, your feelings, what you believe in, what interests you, your ideas, political ideas, hopes, dreams, talents, disabilities, abilities, everything about you. It actually makes quite an important difference if you consider all of those things. So I'm going to give you this list. Your physical nature, your ideas, your feelings, your beliefs, your political ideas, your hopes, your dreams, your attitudes in terms of dealing with other people, your talents, your disabilities, everything. Everything that's a part of you is a part of your personality, because there's no such thing as having no personality. There's no such thing as having a partial personality. Everything that you do includes everything that you are. No, we don't stop to think of it. Some people are quiet. They don't like to become involved with other people. Others do get involved with other people, and they thrive on it. Some people like to have drama in their lives. They thrive on it. Some people want their lives to be neat and peaceful and calm without any difficulties. It's all a difference of who you are. That's all a part of your personality, and it affects the way that you relate with other people, and it affects the way that you have relationships with others. So in dealing with developing personal relationships, we need to know that all of those things are included. Your personality is a total you. Your satisfaction in life is partly dependent on how you react to other people. And so, therefore, it is important that we learn how to have good relationships with other people. And it's important to know when it's good to get into a relationship, to have friendships, and it's also good to know when you need to walk away. There might be some time when you might not be able to be a friend with a person any longer, that you have to distance yourself from them for your own safety or for your own interest. And so you need to get into all of those things. It can be kind of confusing at times, but in everybody's life there's drama. And how you handle drama is also a part of your personality, but it's also a part of how you relate to other people. So it's important to relationships with other people, because every person has a certain amount of drama that comes into their life. Well, what's drama? Anything that's unsettling to you. If you're a person who's calm and you're peaceful and you don't want to have anything interrupting that, and you just like to have a quiet life, then anything that disrupts that is drama in your life. Other people don't mind having things happen. They like to have the immediacy of this happens and there's this crisis and I do this and I do that. You know, why do people become ER doctors? Why do people become medical specialists? Maybe they like the drama. Maybe they like the excitement. Always an emergency, always an ambulance coming into the emergency room. And they feast on that, and they like that, and they dwell on that, and they do very well with it. And there's nothing wrong with any of this, absolutely nothing wrong. It's a difference of who you are personally, what you prefer. You know, we have to understand, and I think what I want to talk to you about is embracing the differences between us. You are a human being in your own right, no matter how active, no matter how drama-driven, or whether you're quiet and you're peaceful, whether you have lots of relationships, whether you only have a few. You are a person in your own right. And so therefore, no one owns you. You have the right as an adult to make decisions that are best for you, as long as you're not deliberately hurting yourself or deliberately hurting somebody else, and you're healthy enough to do it, because you're healthy enough to take care of yourself. You are not owned by anybody. But by the same token, you don't own anybody either. Other people have the right to make their decisions without your manipulating and getting involved in that. You have the right to make decisions without letting people own you and people getting involved in your life. So you have to be able to define yourself as to who you are, what you like, what you want out of other people, what you expect other people can ask of you. We have to define our relationships. Now, by defining our relationships, I don't mean that we're sitting down with a check. Well, I like this, I don't like that, and this kind of thing. It's not that pragmatic. It's not that sit down and do it. But as you meet people, you need to know what kinds of people attract you, what kinds of people are good for you to know, what kinds of people you can help, and then they need to know the same thing about you. Now, we don't make a science of it, in a sense. We don't sit down and think, well, I like this because, or I like this person because, so therefore I'll get close to her, but I won't get close to him because, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I think unconsciously we may make those decisions, but if we know what we want out of people, what we can give people, what we want in return from people, we will, I think, gravitate toward those people which are the best for us to have friendships with. But the thing is, we want to be able to build up friendships. We want to be able to hang on to friendships. We need to know how to be an adult person with an adult personality and building on our relationships and having healthy relationships with other people, because without those healthy relationships with other people, where are we? So how do we get to understand each other? Well, I am going to show a chart here. There was in the past, and I like this theory a lot. Sorry, I should have told you I was bringing in the chart. I forgot. But at any rate, that's my fault. I didn't tell him a chart was coming. There was a theory called phenomenology. And I like the theory. I studied it in college, and I haven't heard much about it since, but I liked it very much because what it dealt with is how people interact with each other. And I thought that was very, very good. And they had charts. It's going to be more complicated than what I talk about here, but we used to have charts that we would use and how people intersect with each other. And so therefore, I just had made this simple chart, this simple drawing, which we'll have up in a minute. minute, and we'll be able to show you what phenomenology is all about. The theory was started by two people. The names were Snigg and Coombs. They wrote a book on it. I liked the book very much. I read it several times. And what it was is about how people interact with each other. Now, you see drawings like this all the time, but this is like a core of what they believed in. So here we have like two independent people. There's a sphere, there's a circle around each one. These are two independent people. At some stage, their lives may intersect with each other, so the circles become a little bit overlapped here, and they become aware of each other. They may have some understanding of each other, but maybe not too much understanding. Then as time goes on, people get much closer to each other, and the spheres kind of intersect with each other, and they get closer and closer. The more the intersection happens, the closer that they get, the more understanding there is, the more compassion there is, and the relationship with the people, with each other, is more intense because there they are. Well, if you have a good friend, then you know you're intersecting with their lives. You don't have to graph it out. But there it is, and in that theory, that it talked about that, the way that people intersect with each other, the way they get to know each other, the way that they brush up against each other, and the way that their lives may become similar, with similar interests and similar desires and similar wishes and hopes for the future and that kind of thing. And as a result of that, the closer they get, the closer the circles become. And you can kind of judge a friendship on the basis of how close you are. How close you are is how much you intersect with some people's lives. I know I had a friend of mine that when she started college and we were going to the same college, she just lived down the street. I discovered that she just lived down the street. Well, we became really good friends because she would call me down. Let's come down to my house. She didn't come to mine very much, but I would go to her house. Let's have a cup of coffee. Well, sometimes I was there 3 or 4 times a day, not because I wanted to be there necessarily 3 or 4 times a day, but it was really a pleasant experience, and she kept calling me back to come, and we became very close. And so if in that case, if you were to graph this out in a circle, we would be very close to each other. The circles would be very close. So it's just a case of understanding people, getting closer to them, getting to know what moves them, getting to know what they're interested in, getting to learn how not to judge them, but to embrace their differences. I think part of the problem with our social relationships today is if a person doesn't believe or think or feel exactly like we do, we don't consider them to be friends. We can be friends with anybody. I've got friends all over the world. We can be friends with anybody. We don't have to necessarily agree with them on everything, but that doesn't mean that we can't care for each other. That doesn't mean that we can't do things together. And so if I know someone's different than I am, so what? It doesn't say that we can't have a friendship. It doesn't mean that we can't have quality of life with each other. So the development of personal relationships can greatly, greatly enhance our life. So what do we do when there's drama? Well, drama, as I said before, is anything that makes you feel unsettled. It disrupts your normal flow of life. And some people thrive on it. Some people don't like it. And some others, it bothers them, and they'd rather not have drama in their life. But it happens to everybody. It can be different for different people. What will be unsettling to me won't necessarily be unsettling for you. So I need to understand in our personal relationship, if I have a friend that I have a personal relationship with, they're going to react differently than I think they're going to react because they're a different person. I can embrace that. I can embrace the differences among people. I don't have to get stressed out or feel bad because somebody isn't exactly like me or doesn't think exactly like me. On the other hand, we do need to choose people who are more like ourselves to have friendships than not. Not that any other person is not allowed to have friendships with us, but we need to have friends that we can feel comfortable with, that we can agree with, that we can have a symbiotic relationship with. So building up relationships includes both those that are like us in terms of what our values are, who we prefer to be with. Of course, we usually prefer to be with people that agree with us and have the same values, but it also includes other people who have different values, but who we can value highly, and we can have good relationships with them as well. So drama is a function of what other people are in our lives, what they do, how they feel, and how that unsettles us, and how we recover from that, and how we can build up friendships with them just the same. And what do we do if people get on our nerves and we can't take what they're giving us? Well, we can change it. We can change the scenario. We can stop being friends with them. We can change the situation. We can discuss with them the differences and why we're not happy, and so forth. We can negotiate differences. So drama involves the following 5 things, the things that unsettle us. It involves certain things. For one thing, if you have drama in your life, it's going to involve your emotions. Now, our response to what happens to us always is a part of our emotions. Emotions, by the way, have to be expressed. If you have certain emotions, they have to be expressed. Now, they can be expressed inwardly or outwardly, but they have to be expressed. I've read that every emotion that you ever had is expressed either in your body or outside of your body to a certain degree. We can get angry, we can say things that maybe we wish we hadn't said, or we can hold it in, and if we hold it in, we just don't talk about it. I suck it up, I don't say anything, I just take it. That's unhealthy, of course, but that may be one thing that I might do. How that's handling the emotions of other people and then handling your own emotions in response. People think of themselves as being intellectual, but really we're much more emotional than we are intellectual. You know, I can remember in college, my favorite professors were those that seemed to be the most intellectual. It seemed like nothing ever bothered them. You know, this problem would come up, either a world situation or something on the college, and they'd talk about it, yeah, and this is what's going on, and we could do this, that, and the other. And it's like they had it solved. They didn't have any emotional response, no deep emotional response to problems. Now, in their own lives, who would know? You know, they wouldn't necessarily share their own lives with us. However, they did respond in an intellectual way to things that were happening on campus. And I always respected that because they always seemed so much under control. But for the most part, people really respond emotionally to things. This is what happens first. You get some kind of news, your husband is in the hospital, he was just in an accident, somebody else, the friend of yours was just diagnosed with a fatal illness. All of these things occur, and your first reaction is probably not going to be emotional, not going to be intellectual. Your first reaction is going to be emotional. You're shocked, you don't know what to do, you feel bad, you want to withdraw, you're not sure what kind of response you should give, and your responses are going to be deeply emotional before they're intellectual. We think of ourselves as being intellectual. We are really more emotional, and these emotional responses have to be expressed somehow. You know, they say that with ulcers, it's not what you eat, it's what eats you. But also I have to say for ulcers that a lot of bacteria cause ulcers as well, so it's not just an emotional response. But I can remember when it was thought that if you had an ulcer, you were reacting emotionally to things that were happening to you. And so therefore it was more an emotional than any kind of a response. Now we know that certain kinds of bacteria bacteria, certain kinds of illnesses will cause ulcers. Some medications cause them too. And so we can't limit ourselves to saying that an ulcer is what you get when you're upset. A migraine is what you get if you're upset. It may be purely physical. It may be emotional. It may be a combination of the two. But nonetheless, the emotion gets expressed. If you get angry and start yelling, you pound the table, you do this or that or the other, you're doing outward expression of emotion, but that emotion is expressed. If you hold it in and you end up by having a headache or an ulcer or something else is happening to you, you get an illness and it's basically a psychosomatic illness, then you're expressing your emotions inwardly. It's not good just to express your emotions inwardly. You need to have an outward expression on them, but not to the point where you're disrupting your life or disrupting somebody else's life. But this is what happens to you. We are emotional beings, and that affects our relationships with other people, because no matter what happens, if it's something that unsettles us, we will become emotional about it, and that needs to be expressed. And so therefore we have to express it. You know, emotions have to be expressed, and some emotional illnesses are due to the fact that a person is upset about something, they're under stress, their bodies can't handle it very well, and as a result of that, they develop some illnesses as a result. So the other thing is, usually, in fact, almost always, the drama that unsettles us involves other people. And it's people, not things. Now, of course, there will be situations where other things will affect us and will make us upset. Supposing that you have to move for your job and you have to move 3,000 miles away, or different things can upset you like that. But still, there's an emotional response to it. And it's usually always involving people. People would make you move. People would affect you to the point where your lives are around people. Your human relationships involve the people that you like, or people that are around you, and people that have influence over you, and people that you have influence over. It's basically an emotional response to what people are doing in your life. It could be that you have a child who now is involved with drugs and you didn't know that before, but people are usually the center of it, more so than things. Other situations can cause an emotional response, but a lot of it is people-oriented. And one reason that I want to get into the development of human relationships is the fact that we react to people, and we react to the people who are reacting to us. And sometimes it gets complicated, but that is the way it is. So it involves people, you know, and we don't meet their expectations, or they don't meet our expectations. Well, we're getting close in time, so I'm going to close it here, but I'll continue with this next time. Please join me then.